The Subjects tab in the Experiment Designer. Materiality can store the properties of virtually any kind of material, and this list will keep growing as you add more and more different kinds of materials into your system. In order to make sure that the materials are properly classified, we have a classification system that essentially allows you to add material classes as shown out here, and then material subclasses as shown out here. Each material subclass belongs to a class, and you can add new subclasses at will by using the experiment designer. So if I would like to add, say, a new subclass of material that did not exist in the system so far, I can do so in this way. I would add a new subclass. Let's say it's an AL210 cast, and this is a metal, aluminum. And here it is. So now I can add materials with the subclass going forward once I publish. In a similar way, we store a complete list of all the suppliers of materials that you can then adequately classify your materials. So if I want to create a new supplier that's not already in the system, I would simply go to new supplier, and I would say I can store the URL of the website of the company, which is always useful to have. So maybe like that. Dot. And so I've added a new material supplier into the system. It continues in this way. You can add processing information. So, for example, in the case of plastics, which are often injection molded, we have the ability now to store all the molding conditions related for a polymer in this particular way. And as you can see, we have these lists can be grown in any way that we wish. So for example, I would like to add something out here that I didn't have. So for example, maybe I would like to add drying mode to indicate whether I wanted to use a particular kind of dryer or not another. I can do that. This is the text category. And bingo, I now have dryer mode as a possible field. So in this way, we can keep the system really alive and add more classes of materials, more classes of processing. So in a similar way, I might decide that the material processing is being done by twin screw extrusion, and I can create a brand new class called just like that, and then open it up and add you can see this is how it's you can keep adding things like that. So I can put screw speed, for example. And in this way, I can build out a descriptive list of the processing of the material. Now, this can be applied to any material that is processed in this way at the Data Viewer tab for your material. Moving on, certifications. Very often materials are certified for use by a particular supplier or to meet a particular norm. So I can add, uh, for example, if I do that, then when I have a material that meets an ASTM norm, I can assign it to that availability, or I can do, for example, a certification to a particular uh, client. So I can put General Motors, for example, and if I create that, now whenever a material is certified for use uh, by General Motors, you can identify it as such. Availability allows you to specify regions in the world where a material is available. So in a similar way. And aliases are very useful when you have a material that is often called by different names. You might have an outside name and an internal name. And so you might have an internal ID. Which then shows up as an alias for this material. The last tab is the composition tab, which is very useful to describe how a material is uh, is composed. So I have an example here of a structured composite, but I'm going to go and create a new compositional class of filled plastics. So I start by creating this. Now I can add information against that. I can say filled plastic is composed of matrix, just for example. Now I can ascribe attributes to these. So, for example, I can add an attribute for the fiber called fiber length, which is numeric, which is in millimeters. And some information about the matrix, which is the polymer. And in this way, I have described a space where now I can store the compositional characteristics of filled plastics. So this is a very powerful way to keep the system going as we find new materials and new compositions of materials that we would like to be working with and yet want to be able to describe and characterize and hold all that information in a single place. And this is one of the key aspects of Materiality's functionality, which makes sure that your system continues to be alive and working for you now and in the future.